Hi, my name is Alima, and this is my technical take-home assignment. It is the Movie Club project, and here I'll be updating the HTML and CSS files with HTML5 and CSS3. I am currently trying to organize my whiteboard. I use my whiteboard to break down projects or just any type of problems I'm trying to solve. Okay, so the prompt, here I'm putting on a little post-it note, is update the movie club section using the style board provided. Okay, now this is the style board, and I have created some sections that I'm going to use to just like organize some basically descriptive text for each section. This is going to help me understand the visual components before I look at the code to see what's different. I like to compare what I see versus what's actually in the code, just in case I have questions. So from what I can see, just visually looking at the style board, as there is a logo section, a welcome section, an about section, and a button link at the bottom. So I'm going to just describe what I see here. And the logo is an image and it's centered. The welcome section has an H1 and it's centered as well. The about section has a P element that's also centered. Vertically centered. These things are vertically centered. No, they're horizontally centered. Oh my god. And I'm gonna leave it there because I'm not gonna be dishonest. So, and then we have a button that's also horizontally centered. I am just going to add that these things are in a section, maybe a body or a main, and they are also centered horizontally. So again, update the movie section based off the storyboard prompt. Now I'm making notes inside the HTML file, basically organizing the sections, or just like making notes about what I see or if I have questions. Here I'm noting the fact that there's like missing form, and it's missing from what I visually see. So that's probably something I'll be asking, I'll definitely be asking a question about it. So this is just one more once over of the code I see and the notes I've made based off of what I see. So these are my assumptions based off of me going over the visual components and then also going over the code itself. So I noticed that the fonts are different. They're different fonts. So I noticed that there is a missing form, and then there are some elements that go with the form that are also missing. So, that's in reference to this is all in reference to HTML, so I just added that. So now I'm asking myself questions: should these things just simply not be here, or should I combine them, this style board with the original code? And then I'm also making a note of the differences between the color, because now I'm making the notes about CSS. And just organizing my notes into groups. So there's the updates, research, and then questions to ask. And then I don't know what that kit does, so I'm also going to look into that. Okay, now I'm going to update my CSS sections with just what I see in the code, just organizing them and making notes about what everything does. here I am marking to ask about these. These are the other elements I noticed that were in reference to the form that were not actually in the style board. So I'm just leaving notes even in the CSS to ask about these things and like changes that I need to make. Just a quick over to make sure. Now we're going to add CSS to this and make some extra notes for my notes. So here I'm just summarizing my thoughts a little bit so that when I go to ask a formal question, I am making sense and asking about the right things. So I asked my question, and the response was basically to separate the two pieces and to design what was literally on the style board. Hopefully I get to do the second part because that's what it sounds like is going on here. Like I'll have to do one part and then there's a second part. So we'll see. This is what the kit was. It's like fonts and things. So now that I know what the kit is, I can remove that as something to do in my assumption section. So the kit is an element library. It's actually a pretty cool library too. And typically when I research things, if I feel like something is a resource, I add it to my developer notebook. Now I'm just going over the prompt again. I like to make sure, gotta make sure. Right, so now I'm creating a requirements table, basically, where I separate the requirements by their sections. And I'm just adding the things that are necessary for the final result. This is my requirements table. So now I have copied the original file and I'm going to make updates in a new file. I underscore the original one to let me know that that's the original. And I work with the new one, first removing all of the unnecessary notes or comments that I've made in either the CSS or HTML files. And then I'm going to update each section. I like to work outside in and top down. So outside in, I'm starting with the body first. So the welcome section is inside of the header, and that section needs some font changes, and it also needs a logo. Here I am adding the link to the fonts, the cool fonts that I had to insert, and I'm also removing unnecessary links. I like to keep my code clean as possible. So now that I've added the font, I can update the title to the proper font. Now I'm adding the image, which is the logo, and as always, the alt text. Yes, and giving the image an ID so that I can easily select and edit it from the CSS file. And here I am in the CSS file, excuse me. So yeah, I'm in the CSS file, editing technically adding this instance of the logo, and I am styling the section that is the logo. Oh, not the section, the element. Element sounds better. So I was styling the logo element. Now I'm removing unnecessary code from the CSS file. Just a little comparison for what I have and what is asked or what is being required. Now updating the button ID, because this is for an app and it's not a game, so I feel like play button is kind of confusing. So I would like it to be very explicit, saying like this is a button and we're not playing a game, but we're going to do something else. So I'm pointing out the differences in the buttons, the styling of the buttons. And now my button is almost mostly the same. I just have to add the arrow that you see there. And I'm going to use the kit that was already inside the HTML file to do just that. And this is my final reveal. Voila. Welcome to the movie club.